Hello, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. I'm your host, Batsir Namshar. For our top stories, fire breaks out at State Department store. Chartered flight returns from Australia with 270 Mongolian citizens. For other news, stay tuned. The number of imported COVID-19 cases in Mongolia has increased over the past 3 days. The Ministry of Health held its daily press briefing to provide the latest updates on COVID-19 stats in Mongolia. We have details in the following report.
The director of the National Center for Communicable Diseases, Nyemkhu, reported that one more case of COVID-19 was confirmed in Mongolia. The patient is a Russian truck driver who entered Mongolia through the Altanboluk port of entry. Mongolia now has 194 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 75 people have recovered from infection, and 119 people are currently being treated. While there are 16 patients with serious symptoms of illness, 103 patients are in stable condition. A total of 155 people are receiving treatment and are under close medical observation at the National Center for Communicable Diseases.
With financing from the European Union, the industry of the Future Training Center and Textile and Knitwear Finishing Incubator Center were opened. The centers were created as part of the Support to Employment Creation in Mongolia project, jointly led by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization and the Mongolian Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Light Industry. With the launching of the training centers, rural farmers and herders will be able to access online training and information. Experts believe that it will create jobs in province areas.
Mongolia processes only 30% of the leather and wool it produces. Some studies suggest that 4 to 5 million sheepskins and horse hides are thrown away without being put into economic circulation. If Mongolia was able to boost the processing of its livestock raw materials, the country could see income from processed leather and wool rise by up to 1 trillion Mongolian tugreks, or approximately $357 million per year. A boost in processing could also create more than 20,000 jobs in rural areas.
Today, around 8,000 people are employed in the wool and leather processing industry. 100 manufacturers of leather products and 30 processing plants are currently operating in Mongolia. Around 30% of exported hide and wool are fully processed, while the remaining 70% is exported after being semi-processed. Mongolia puts 20 million livestock into economic circulation each year. That means 20 million pieces of skin and leather, 20,000 tons of wool and around 10,000 tons of cashmere are produced. We have the potential for processing these precious raw materials, producing finished products and supplying the market.
In the 1980s, a major part of GDP came from animal husbandry, but leather and wool processing now makes up only 10% of GDP. Part of the challenge for increased revenue is the poor quality of raw materials. According to manufacturers, when herders provide sheep or cattle hide, only 1 or 2 out of 10 hides meet quality standards for processing. We will create the remote training programs necessary for light industry and the manufacturing sector. Last week, the Minister of Finance and the European Union signed a financing agreement for the direct budget support program. The EU granted Mongolia over €50 million to support employment. €43 million will be directly transferred for the state budget, and €7.8 million will fund the technical assistance project.
Thank you for staying with us on MNB World. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
On Sunday, a fire broke out on the 7th floor of State Department store. More than 100 firefighters from the 8th Fire Brigade of the Ulaanbaatar Emergency Management Agency worked to extinguish the fire. A call about a fire was received by the National Emergency Management Agency at 4:48 p.m. A working group was appointed to determine the cause of the fire. According to some witnesses who were present when the fire broke out, it might have been the result of repairs happening on site, but no final conclusion has been made. 6 people who were trapped inside the building made it to the roof, where they were saved by firefighters. No fatalities were reported. The top 2 floors of the building were completely destroyed by the fire. State Department Store was established in 1924 and its current building was built in 1961. An estimate of the damages from the fire has not yet been announced.
On June 3rd, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia Tsochtpatar received the ambassador of China Chai Wenru upon the ambassador's request. The sides discussed boosting bilateral relations and cooperation, especially in the economic sector, and agreed to restart major projects and agreements discussed during past high-level meetings. In addition, the 2 sides exchanged views on cooperation, security, and sustainable development in the region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs stated that Mongolia is interested in cooperating in these fields within the framework of international law.
Last week, we reported that 8 chartered repatriation flights will be operated in June. On June 5th, Director General of the Consular Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Muhtushik, announced that special permission for direct chartered flights to and from Sydney, Australia had been received. Emirat's Mongolian Airlines flight departed for Sydney from Ulaanbaatar on June 6 and lands in Ulaanbaatar on June 8 at 8 p.m. The plane made a fuel stop in the Philippines and picked up 34 Mongolian citizens for repatriation. According to information provided by the MFA, there are nearly 11,600 Mongolian citizens in 45 countries who are unable to return to Mongolia due to COVID-19 border restrictions. In compliance with safety and outbreak prevention measures, all passengers will be immediately placed in 21-day isolation in the state's quarantine facilities upon their arrival in Mongolia and will be required to undergo an additional 14 days of isolation at home.
You're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Following this, let's take a look at the weather forecast for the world's major cities. Thank you for being with us on MNB World. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.